in those groups, like you say, you've got the guy that goes on and says, I polished this car for 28 hours, put a wax on it, charged the customer $1,000. They're a hero. They get applauded. You get the other guy that goes on and says, yeah, I did an hour and a half enhancement polish, threw a coating on it, charged the customer $2,000. You're a thief.
Detailer's Roadmap Cruise Control, where we navigate the roadways of life, business, and everything in between. Hey guys, it's Kevin Davis from the Cruise Control Podcast. I'm going to be here today with one of my favorite people in the world, Yvan Lacroix. I've known Yvan for about 10 years or more, so I'm super excited about this. Before we get started, don't forget to go to detailersroadmap.com. Check out what we've got going on there. We do kick-ass websites, SEO, and a host of other things. So go to detailersroadmap.com, use that little book a demo button up on top, and we can take care of you, walk you through what you've got going on now, what we can do for you, and talk about all the options. So, hey, Yvan has been in the detailing industry for 45 years and describes himself as a student of the industry. A serial entrepreneur, Yvan's mission is to convert detailers into entrepreneurs and to make detailing fun. Short and to the point, right? I mean, that's been our mission. My mission here too is this whole like stop just being a detailer, be a an entrepreneur / small business owner who happens to work in the detailing industry. So I know we're on the same page there. I think it's crazy that it's that number 45 years because you're like 47. So, I imagine a little Yvan with a polisher in his hand. It'd have to be a rotary at that point. Got your little bow tie and your curly Q mustache. So I need to have someone make that artwork for me because I think it would be hilarious. But hey, thanks for joining me. I know you guys are on the road, probably on your way to SEMA at the moment, I'm guessing, or nearing it.
Yeah, correct.
And I do want to talk about your bus project and bus life and all that too. But the thing that we do on this podcast every time is I want that superhero backstory. And it's, you've got 4+ decades going. So take as long as you want, because I want to show people, I'm not that much younger than you, but I don't have as much time in the industry. But I want to show people what that progression has looked like. And I want to talk about stuff like, exit plans and what you do after the shop and those kind of things. So I think that just sets our foundation.
Excellent. Yeah. So there's no superhero story. There's nothing like that. I hate it when people say I'm a master or a guru or whatever. No, I'm a student of the industry. Always have been, always will be. And I've done a lot of different things in this industry. Some of them public facing, some of them not. In terms of R&D, in terms of product development, marketing development, getting businesses set up, started, and all of that. And like I said, I'm a serial entrepreneur myself, with my wife, Sylvie. Like you and your wife, we built this together. Mm-hmm. And the behind every good man there's a great woman. Same here. And I know it's the same with you and Michelle. So yeah. And that is part of it. But the whole the longevity of the industry for me has been there because I enjoy it. I've only worked 1 week in my life. I worked in a factory for 1 week. I quit the first day, but I gave them till the end of the week. And every position I've had, every job I've done, every company I've worked for, they knew going in day one that the day that I don't enjoy this anymore is the day that I leave. There has to be a reason. There has to be a motivation. There has to be fun. If you can't have fun in what you're doing in life, there's no point in doing that. Find something else. And for myself, having had a lot of employees over the years, to me, I never had a problem firing an employee, because to me, firing an employee was liberating them. Because if an employee is not happy, they're the employees that have to leave. And that unhappiness can show up in a lot of different ways. But showing up to work late, not doing a good job, etc., is because there's an underlying issue there. And if you've got a staff of 50 people and 49 of them are happy to come to work and you've got one that isn't, they're just too lazy to quit themselves. So I give them that little push. And so for me, I wasn't lazy enough, or I'm not lazy in any way. So I'm the one that gave myself the push. It's like, I don't want to go there, so I'm not going to go there. I'll find something else. There's always another job to go to. There's always another career path. There's always something else you can do. So if you're locked in something you don't like, get out of it. And I know, Kevin, you're the same way. Like,
Hmm.
you've had a lot of different, your hand in a lot of different businesses over the years. You've got, your rentals, you've got all sorts of different things going on. We see you building this beautiful barn, and then all of a sudden you're in a house somewhere renovating it,
Yeah.
and or you're
I'm
traveling
not sure
around in
that was
your
a great
RV.
idea, but yeah, we did do
Yeah,
that.
yeah. And like you're doing, you're working with Detailers Roadmap. You've worked with a lot of different companies in the industry, like I have, and
Hmm.
some of it has been forward facing, some of it has been completely in the background, and no one will ever know because, like yourself, I probably have signed more NDAs than contracts in my life.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
So those are things that a lot of people don't see what we do or how we do it or why we do it. But to me, that's part of the fun in the industry. It doesn't always have to be the spotlight. The spotlight to me is the least attractive part of this industry. What's attractive is seeing people grow. We just finished doing a training the last 2 days, and that training, I had 8 students that were happy, that were wanting to learn. They learned, and when you get things like, oh, this changed the way I do things, and it makes it easier for me. That's the fun of it.
Hmm. Yeah, and I'd love for you to go a little bit more into your resume if you don't mind, but just so that we can kind of have that context. But I love the idea that you and I both share, which is this is supposed to be fun,
Mhm.
right? Like we only get 80 years, 100 years, whatever it is, which is not very long. I'm 52. You're a little bit older than that, and it
Yeah,
is like it is it. That's the cliche, right? You don't believe it when you're in your 20s, but it goes so fast.
yeah,
Like I can't believe we're staring down SEMA and it's almost November, right? It's
yeah,
next week. But like the years seem to be accelerating. And like you, I've got my hands on a lot of things, and I don't know if that makes it go faster or not. I kind of think it does. But
yeah,
to your point, if you're doing something that's not fun, you either need to do it differently or do something else, right? That's kind of been my philosophy, and I actually have it up on my board. I've talked about it on the podcast many times, which is, my goals for 2024 shifted from a huge revenue list of numbers
yeah,
to, building a life, having fun, and serving others. Those are my goals, right?
yeah.
If I do those three things, everything else just falls into place.
The money always falls into place. It's not something, I've serial entrepreneur, so I've been bankrupt before. I've done all this stuff, and it I've always been able to eat. I've always, I've never been homeless. And I know some great entrepreneurs in this industry that at one point in life, they were homeless.
Mm.
Now they've got a great business. So that is just a bump in the road. And don't focus on it. Focus on what you're going to be doing tomorrow and what you're going to be doing next year. And, I don't look, even though I say next year, I don't look that far ahead. Uh, it's live in the moment, do what you need to do, make people happy, make yourself happy. And like you say, everything else just falls into place.
Yeah, I'm doing a talk with Rennie's group next week at SEMA, and a big
Mhm.
part of what I'm talking about is identity and business and like using your potential and looking forward and all of those things. And it's more of a philosophy. It's like the most business information I can give without talking about business,
Yeah.
right? And that's, I think both of us share that. Can you walk through, because can you walk me down that path of that journey from owning your own shop and then exiting your shop? And because I think there are so many people in the industry that kind of see their business as, well, first of all, a lot of them are just employees in their own business, right? We know that.
Yeah.
But I think they see it as almost like this little miniature prison, that I'm 35 years old and I have to do this for another 30 years in order to see that next thing. And I like to give people this context because that's not necessarily the path that they're going to take.
No, 100%. And if you're taking that path, God bless you, but it's not going to be fun. Uh, the, for myself, I've had my own business. I've worked for someone else. I've gone back to my own business. I've worked for someone, it's been a continual roller coaster, but the exit strategy should start on day one of your business. And one of the things that I see in this industry that, to me, the industry unfortunately very much has a technician's mindset.
Mm-hmm.
Buy a bucket, get a hose, and oh, I'm a detailer. And a lot of them are. oh, I don't want to go into debt because if I go into, I built this from the ground up with no debt, and they're proud of that, which is great. But at the same time, sometimes to advance your business, you need a bit of, business capital to work with. And
OPM,
yeah,
right? Other
yeah,
people's money.
exactly. And that other people's money is what can give you, what can bring you to the next level, what can do that. The other thing is that I've seen in this industry, and again, it comes back to the technician's mindset, is people saying, I can't have an employee because the employee can never be as good as I am.
Mm,
And that to me is someone that the day they close their business is because they either went out of business or they're just locking the doors. They might be able to sell the inventory and their business is worth absolutely nothing.
hmm
For myself, the way, well, Sylvia and I built the business is very simple. We did not want to be part of the business. If we have to be there, it's not a business, it's a job.
hmm
And you mentioned we live in a bus. The last years that we had our shop, I would go away for 2 or 3 weeks, and it might take a week and a half for the employees to realize I wasn't there. Never mind, because everything was set up for them to work together. And one of the best ways to have a business you can sell is to have the best and the most complete set of standard operating procedures written down possible. That someone off the street can walk in, pick up that SOP and do the job without having to ask anyone a question and get the job done. That is what gives business a value. It's not the equipment that you have. It's not the social media that you have. Social media a little bit these days. It's not necessarily the website either. And it's definitely not your name and the work that you do, because if you build your business around your personal reputation and your personal way of working, when you leave, that business is worth zero.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know,
It's I, um, I love the SOP thing. That's one thing that I've been really working towards and taking myself out of my own business. I've got an executive assistant now that is taking over all my email, all my calendar, all my
yeah,
task lists. And she's literally like, I just set up in my email that it CCs her on every email I send,
yeah,
which now are very few, right? So
yeah,
she's actually, I've created SOPs for her to help her create SOPs for the rest of my businesses because they all are a little bit different.
yeah,
Um, and then and I'll ask you this question. It's a little bit of a loaded question, but do you think that we've created this? I mean, we all know that there's tremendous ego in the industry.
yeah,
That's kind of a given. But do you think we've created this idea and foster the idea that I'm a I'm an artist, right? Like I'm a paint artist, or
yeah,
excuse me, Justin Labato, you could
yeah,
punch me
yeah,
in the face later, reflection artist, or whatever and that's fine. That's a marketing aspect and all that. But I think that
yeah,
people have put that on as their identity. And therefore, they almost think that if I'm this good, there is no way that I could hand this over to somebody else.
yeah. Uh, yeah. The artist aspect of it to me, like, I feel the same way about it that you do. You should be able to teach your employees, and your employees should actually be better than you are.
Mm,
And it comes down to being able to teach. For us, we had at one point 20 some shops and franchises and the whole thing. Our whole method of operating when it came to employees is, if you want to move up to the next rung of the ladder, you have to bring someone up with you.
mm,
So every employee was centered on giving as much knowledge to the people around them as possible, because they couldn't progress if there wasn't someone to fill the vacuum when they left. And as a business owner, it's the same thing. You have to have someone to fill that vacuum.
mm-hmm,
And you should be able to walk away from your business. You've done it with your, administrative assistant. You should be able to walk away for your business, go to Peru for a month, and it not impact your business at all. It might actually make your business run better because you're not micromanaging things.
probably the biggest
Yeah,
bottleneck, right?
right. Well, not only that, your employees, if your SOPs are good, they're following your SOPs. As the owner, you don't always follow your own SOPs,
Yeah.
and that becomes a problem. And managing expectations is something that I've always talked about in this industry. And it's not managing the customer's expectations, it's managing the technician's expectations. Because, one thing you mentioned, putting their name on it or that ego. It's like, oh, I can't let that car go with a scratch because it has my name on it. Unless your name is Henry Ford or Louis Chevrolet, your name is not on the car.
Right.
And your customer, as soon as they drive out of that driveway, it's out of your hands. And they might be they might be taking it to the car wash tomorrow,
Mm-hmm.
and with all the scratching and all that, and all that effort you put in is gone. So you gave them what they wanted, what they paid for, not more, not less. And one thing I've been saying for the last 40 years in this industry is, if someone orders a hot dog, you don't give them a steak.
Yeah.
You might give them the best chili cheese dog they've ever had, but you're not giving them a steak. They ordered a hot dog. And there are some days when you order a hot dog, and if they were to give you a steak, you'd be disappointed because
Mm-hmm.
you wanted a hot dog. There
Yeah.
are, those days are few and far between, but nonetheless, those days do happen. So that is one of the things for me is, give your customers what you want, not what your ego wants. And that mentality of, it's an art, it's teachable 100%. Anyone can learn how to detail. Having the eye for it is part of it, and not
Mm-hmm.
everyone has that, or not everyone has the passion, not everyone has the patience, but at the same time it is teachable. And I've had easily over 1,000 students so far. It is teachable.
And the tools are so much better now. Like, I mean, I see videos all the time of detailers teaching their like 6-year-old how to run a Bigfoot 15,
Yeah,
right? Like, and I mean, and nothing like, I can run a rotary, I can run a DA, I can run forced rotation, whatever. I can run
yeah,
those things. So I'm talking to myself also, but like, if I could teach a 5 or 6-year-old how to run and polish paint,
yep,
it's I've always said, like, we're not curing cancer here. We're making shiny paint, right?
exactly.
Like, why we think we're curing cancer as an industry as a whole, it surprises me.
Yeah, we're a luxury service, and we're not a necessity in anyone's life. No one needs to have their car cleaned, and they can go to the car wash for that. We are above and beyond. I look at it as, the car washes are the McDonald's of the world. We're the Ruth Chris Steakhouse.
Mm-hmm.
And, that's something that always has perturbed me in the industry, is people undervaluing their own work. They can't, they don't put a value on their own work. The guy that says, oh, well, no one's ever going to pay that in my area. Yes, people are going to pay whatever you ask for if you provide the value for it and you provide the context. And one of my easiest ways of explaining it is the F-150 Ford. If you buy it in Miami or you buy it in Seattle, it's the same price. Or if you buy it in Middle America, in a small town in Nebraska, it's still the same price. It's
Mm-hmm.
still the same value, because that's what you're getting. And people are, oh, I can't charge that much. If you were to tell a Ford executive 20 years ago that they'd have an over $100,000 F-150 on lots, they would have told you, we'll never be able to sell them for that either.
Mm-hmm.
Here we are. They're there.
Yeah. And people are paying, I mean, it's just like any of these other cars where they pay it, the new C8s came out, the Corvettes, they're paying
Yeah.
30, 40 grand above sticker, and
Yeah.
which is dumb to pay above sticker unless like it's a one of 50 car or something
Yeah.
like that. If you're just in a hurry and you have the money, just go for it. Right. But that
Yeah.
they will pay over sticker. And to that example, the F-150 comes in multiple options package, right?
Yeah.
Like you can do the King Ranch. I assume they still have it. You can do the King Ranch. You can do all these different things. And or you can get the base half-ton 2-wheel drive model that is white, has steel rims on it, and cloth interior and all that, right? Like they barely even have electric windows, which is hard not to get them now. But like
Yeah.
the buyer for that truck versus the buyer for a fully loaded one are two different people,
Yeah.
right? And
And they're finding out that there's actually more buyers for the fully loaded one than there is the base model. And
yeah,
that's something I've been trying to teach detailers for years, is value your services for what they're actually worth, not what you
mm-hmm.
can afford. Because a lot of detailers, again, the technician's mindset, if they can't afford what they're selling, they think their customers can't afford it. And I did a training a number of years ago in Poland, and they were charging an absurdly low amount of money for detailing. And when I, looked out in the parking lot, there was 50 of them there. It was a big class. Looked out, no one had a car worth more than 10,000 euros. And I said, well, what are the last 5 cars you detailed? Mercedes, Audi, BMW, Bentley, Volkswagen, or Ferrari, like all these expensive cars, and they're driving Volkswagens and Seats. And okay, those customers that brought you that brand new Mercedes, what does he do for a living? Oh, owns a hair salon. The other one owns a restaurant. They're all entrepreneurs. You guys are entrepreneurs as well, but you have, oh no, I'm a detailer. No, you're not a detailer. You're an entrepreneur providing customer service that just happens as a side effect being clean, shiny cars. And they all agreed to raise their prices because they realized that they couldn't afford their own services, and they were casting that belief onto their customers. And one of the people reached back out to me after this and raised his prices, and he had a customer in his town that didn't bring his car to him because he wasn't expensive enough.
Yeah.
Instead, he drove his car to Germany to have it detailed because he could have the detail done for 1,500 euros in Germany or pay this guy 300 euros in Poland to do it. He'd rather drive, if he's only charging 300, he can't be doing a good job. And that's one of the points where a lot of detailers get stuck on is they can't afford it, therefore they don't ask their customer for it. And you talked about the dealership and the base model truck with the wind down windows and all that stuff. If you walk into a dealership, do they have the one in the showroom with the wind down windows, or do they have the fully loaded out every option in the world truck? They have the every option in the world truck. And if you want to see the one with the wind down windows and the cloth bench seat, you have to take the walk of shame to the back of the dealership. They're not even going to give you a ride on the golf cart. You have to walk back there yourself to see it if they
Yeah.
have one in stock. So as
Yeah.
as business owners, grow yourself.
Yeah, I like the idea that it's like if we are providing a service and it depends on what your market is, right? It could be soccer moms or whatever. But
Yeah.
dude, soccer moms right now are driving $120,000 Yukon Denali. They're not
Yeah.
driving, even the minivans are friggin' 80 grand right now.
Yeah.
And so just because you can't afford a Ferrari doesn't mean you still want those customers that want to do that. And you need to do, I call it value-based pricing, which
Yeah.
I'm sure that you talk about that as well, which is if
Yeah.
you need to establish what the value is. Talk to me about that dichotomy between, it's the, hey, I'm, showing me this is my favorite thing. I show a picture of my watch at 2 a.m.
Yeah.
and I'm still detailing this truck, and I'm in for 40 hours or whatever, and I always ask if I used to comment on those, like, dude, are you getting paid 30 grand for this job? Why are you doing it at 2 a.m? There's something wrong with your process.
Yeah.
But talk to me about the difference between that mentality of like, I'm letting my own ego and perfectionism drive my delivery versus the right way.
So, first of all, there's no right way to detail. There's no wrong way either. There's just a lot of different ways. But there's
Okay.
no absolute, this is the only way to do it. But your value based thing is 100% true. And the way I explain it is detailers dream of detailing a Ferrari. Car wash owners drive Ferraris. And what's a car wash owner? $29.99 a month. You can go through as many times as you want. But the detailer that's doing that 40 hours and they charge the customer $1,000. They don't realize what they're doing. And the customer will pick the car up, may not even look at it and go, oh yeah, it's nice, and drive away. So they put all that effort in to have their soul just sucked out of them by the customer that doesn't care.
Mm-hmm.
And or they'll see the car a week later and it's scratched up because there was a something on the hood and they just rubbed it off, and all that extra work for nothing whatsoever. So meet your customers' expectations, do what the customer wants, not what your ego tells you they should have. And as detailers, is one thing that we've been taught all these years is that polishing removes scratches. Polishing has never removed a scratch from paint. We remove the clear coat down to the level of the scratch. So every time we're polishing paint, we're damaging paint. We're literally damaging the car every time we polish it because we're removing something from it. And that's where, in the 1800s, doctor would proudly walk out of the operating room. The operation was a success. The patient died 3 days later because of complications due to the operation. The operation technically was a success, but they never washed the scalpel. They never washed their hands back then. So, the patient died from infections. And that's what detailers are doing. They're polishing it for their ego. They're getting it perfect in their eyes, and the customer doesn't care. And the car is going to die an untimely death soon because they've removed so much paint. Or the next time the customer gets a scratch in that area because they're parking in the same garage and it's the same kid going by the car with a bicycle. Next time they try to polish that area, now they're into the base coat and they're screwed.
Yeah, and it's a matter of, now, first of all, it's our old buddy Mike Phillips, right? The customers
Yeah.
can't tell the difference between a swirl and a squirrel. That's
Yeah,
always
exactly.
that's always his training line. And now when you look at, since we switched over to waterborne paint,
Yeah.
most cars come fully orange peeled out of the factory. It's almost like it's a paint, it's like it's a paint feature.
Yeah. Well, it
Now a little
actually is
bit.
programmed in. So having done work for OEMs, the level of orange peel is actually programmed in to match or hide the level of defects on their panels. So if you were to take a pickup truck and perfectly wet sand the side of that box, it will look wavy. But because of the orange peel, it looks flat. And so it is a feature. Like you say, it actually is a feature. Actually is programmed in. An OEM can produce a zero orange peel finish if they want to.
And I mean, and a lot of it probably now that we've got aluminum panels and all of that, because it's just not as, that's probably where a big part of the wave is coming, because it's structurally it's just not as sound as the
Yep.
steel that I have in my 72 GMC out here, that
Yeah.
each door weighs 350 pounds.
Yeah.
So what they're also putting in, like metallics and all that, right? So what do you teach detailers on how to approach these things? I mean, this is not really a technical podcast, but I'd love to hear
No.
about it. What are you teaching them in terms of, all right, so a customer comes in, they've clearly been to the car wash, there's swirl marks all over this thing, but we have very little clear coat to start with. It's a brand new vehicle or 6 months old. What are you doing to train those those business owners on how to approach that kind of stuff?
Preservation over perfection. So we're trying to preserve the customer's vehicle. We're trying to make it look good. And most customers, to them, perfection is when they pick the car up at the dealership. It's already been through a scratch press 20 times if it's been at the dealership. And to them, that's perfect. As detailers, it's a starting point. But we need to look at the vehicle in the customer's eyes, through their eyes, not our eyes. And one thing that I see a lot of people, you're talking about education, is the detailers that say, "Oh, I brought out the light to educate my customer on all the defects in their paint." That's the worst thing you could do. You're giving the customer your disease, because we see things that no one else sees. And the best, one of the ways of really wrapping your head around it is go to a classic car show. They're all scratched. They all look like crap. But you talk to the owner of the car and say, "What do you think of your paint?" "Oh, I had it painted with Imron 15 years ago. It's perfect, isn't it?" Yeah, sure. If you think it's perfect, have fun with it. As they're going over the car with a California car scratcher. So that you are learning to read the customer and meeting the customer's expectations, and not what the internet tells you should be doing, not what the detailing group on Facebook tells you should be doing, because, "Oh, you only polish 2 hours, you're a hack." And those groups, like you say, you've got the guy that goes on and says, "I polished this car for 28 hours, put a wax on it, charged the customer $1,000. They're a hero. They get applauded. You get the other guy that goes on and says, "Yeah, I did an hour and a half enhancement polish, threw a coating on it, charged the customer $2,000. You're a thief." Well, probably that 2 hours and the $2,000, that customer is happier than the other one, because
Yeah,
they got a shiny car.
100%. Yeah. And you met their needs that they wanted when they came in, which is part of your job, is to figure out what their needs are. Do you think that we have any, I'm just kind of, spitballing a little bit. Do you think that we have, as an industry, any liability concerns long term with what we're doing to some of these thinner clear coats, in terms of we're over polishing them?
Yeah, we're definitely over polishing them, but at the same time, the liability is going to come in a couple of years when that car gets polished again. And that detailer that didn't take the time to measure the paint thickness or just can't read the paint as they're polishing it and blows through, they're the last one to touch it. They're the ones with the problem.
Hey, you know that little thing on your phone when you search and you say business near me? Well, people aren't finding you when they search for ceramic coating near me, detailing near me, tint shop near me, PPF shop near me. They're not finding you as well as they should, or they're not finding you in the areas that you'd like to. Detailer's Roadmap has a solution. I want to introduce our new Google Business and Maps Accelerator. We have got this great new program that not only gives you an opportunity to do some search engine optimization, SEO, but in a very specific way that is designed to be map friendly, Google business friendly, and in order to get you more leads in areas that you're currently in and areas that you also want to target that may be slightly out of your own area. So go to detailersroadmap.com, use that little schedule a demo button at the top, and tell them in that form that you want to do the Google Business and Maps Accelerator program. Take a look at that. It's very cost effective and a very entry level price, and it's awesome.
And that's, it's the customer's never going to tell you, oh, yeah, I had some other guy that polished on it for 30 hours before. They're not going to tell you that. It's like, you burned through my paint, you're paying for my paint. And that's going to happen more and more, unfortunately, as far as I'm concerned. And I've seen it a couple times already where, someone reaches out to me. It's like, I just polished for like 30 seconds on this paint. I'm already burned through. It's like, it's because the last guy stopped right at the last second. Yeah.
Yeah, you're welcome, right? Like
Yeah.
that's your future gift. That's why you want to stick with the same detailer, I guess. That way
Yeah.
you know what you're getting into. I guess maybe some of the Carfax stuff. It'd be nice if we could include that stuff in Carfax.
Oh, we can.
And and
There's a lot of ways of doing it. Uh, any detailer that is a registered business, so you're a legitimate business, you can register every job on Carfax if you want to. You don't have to have a coding company do it for you. You don't have to have a third party app doing it for you. You can sign up with Carfax and you can do it yourself. So and you should, because now you're adding value for your customers. Because when they go to trade their car in, and the used car manager is looking at the car, and they always pull up Carfax and to see if it's had an accident or something, and there's 10 or 15 detailing related things on it. It's like, oh, well, this car's been well taken care of. So you're doing your customer a favor by doing that. And at the same time, when your customer sees that, they want to come back to you because you've done something for them that is a positive. You've brought value to them.
yeah, and there's the additional value add that that's why the reason we charge so much is because of these XYZ things that we do for all of our customers, right? Like
Right.
that's what you're paying for.
Yeah.
You're a big efficiency guy. Obviously, I'm a big efficiency guy too.
Yep.
Talk to me about like where we are as an industry, with efficiency. And I also want to kind of get your sense of where we've come. Back in when we first met, which would have been probably 2012 to 2013 at probably Bob McKee's event.
Yeah.
Detail Fest is probably where we met.
Yeah.
I started out just doing nothing but business YouTube videos. Basically,
Yeah.
that was one of the ways that we reached detailing industry, and it was all like most of them didn't have insurance, no garage keepers, no liability insurance. They weren't
Yeah.
using systems. When I told them about my tool belt, they were like, "I'd never want to do that. That would totally slow me down." All of that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
Where are we in terms of like overall business sense and business procedures, and then also efficiency as an industry from what you're seeing? Because you're seeing shops all over the United States, probably all over the
Yeah.
world.
Yeah. It's getting better. And one thing that's changed in our industry in the last 20 years is the advent of ceramic coatings. And what ceramic coatings have done is allowed detailers to raise their prices. And as they've raised their prices, they have, despite themselves, become entrepreneurs. And, with your teachings, like the detailer helper belt, to me, you shouldn't be a mobile detailer without one. In a shop, I use a cart, which is, similar crutch, or not a crutch, but similar system. But they are, and even in a shop, it's great, for interiors, things like that. But having a system, having building in efficiencies raises your profitability. Selling higher vol or higher priced items like coatings raises the profitability. And when someone gets in that that wheel turning of profits and getting better at business, and that intrigues them, and they go further and further into it. And the trainings I'm doing more and more are shops that are established. It's not new people, and they hire me there to bring up their efficiency another notch. They've reached a plateau and they can't get past that plateau. And they're at $120 an hour and they want to get to $150 an hour. And that's what I do. And that to me is fun when I always come back to them in a month or 2 months and 5 months and 6 months just to see how it's going. And when they tell you, it's like, yeah, we were at $118 an hour and now we're at 165 because of what we learned. And it might just be one little thing out of that 2-day session that they go, oh, wow, that changes everything for us. And that to me is the fun part of the industry. Like with you've got a lot of testimonials about the detailer's helper belt, how it improved their profitability, it improved their workflow, it cut the time down from a 3-hour job to a 2-hour job. And that to us, to you, to me is just part of it. It's fun. It's like, wow, okay, I'm actually doing something here. And that's what keeps us coming back too.
Yeah, 100%. I will argue against the cart at some point by sending you a video of my test between just the cart and the cart
I've
with
seen
the
the
belt.
video. Yeah.
But to your point, yeah, it makes sense in certain workflows and certain and some others. And what you're pointing out is that you really only have two ways to make more profit, right? You either raise your prices or you lower your costs. Like that's
Yeah.
it's pretty simple math.
Yeah, and lowering your costs is the easiest one. Raising your prices not hard to do, but then it's explaining it to customers this, that, and the other thing. And one thing that detailers haven't figured out yet is their neighbor. So if you're in a mall, or a business area, you have a mechanic and you have a body shop and you have all that. What's the mechanic charging per hour? If they're charging $130, $140 an hour, why aren't you? The utilities company doesn't go, oh, he's a detailer, we're just going to charge him half for the electricity. The property owner doesn't go, oh, well, you're a detailer, your rent is half of what a mechanic is. Your cost per square foot is the same, and sometimes it's more. Like in my shop, the last shop I had, the building was the same size as the Ford dealership across the street, as the Hyundai dealership on the left, and the Volkswagen dealership on the right. I had the same size lot, same size building. So I could point to them and say, okay, well, the Ford dealership over there is charging you $140 an hour to change your oil. Why do you think I should be charging you $50 an hour? Do you think my property taxes are lower because I'm a detailer? Do you think my HVAC bill is different? It's actually, ours was higher because we actually kept the shop at a nice temperature for the employees. We had more lighting than anything around us. Our 4 neighbors combined didn't have as much lighting as we had in the shop, so our electrical bill was a little higher than theirs. And the property taxes, the mortgage, all of that was 100% equal to those other places. Meanwhile, they're willing to pay $140 an hour at the dealership, but not to us. And once you explain that to the customer, it's like, I'm providing you a service just like they're providing you a service. And I can detail your car, they can change your oil, or they can do your brakes or whatever. Both are things that the consumer can do themselves. I know you've changed oil before in your vehicles, and you probably still do. For myself, I can change oil, but I don't. It's more profitable for me to do a coaching session and have a mechanic change my oil than me changing the oil. Now, on the fun cars, I change the oil. On the daily drivers, no. So, it's whatever you want to do. But finding that equilibrium of, having someone cut your lawn probably costs you less than doing it yourself if you're an entrepreneur. But do you like cutting your lawn? If it's a pleasurable thing for you, do it. If it's a chore, have someone else do it, pay them, enjoy paying them, and work an extra hour and recover that cost quite easily.
Yeah, I mean, and to your point, I was reading a book, "Buy Back Your Time" by Dan Martell. I talked about it on Facebook the other day, and if you have not read that book, I highly recommend it. That's actually what is spurring me along with my executive assistant and VAs and all this stuff. But one of the things that he talks about are these 4 buckets of tasks. You have $10 task, $100 tasks, $1,000 tasks, and $10,000 tasks.
Yeah.
And he has you evaluate your day and say, okay, where is most of your time being spent? And I must admit that too much of my time was spent in the $10 and $100 task bucket, right? Which a lot of us do that. That's really easy to do. But then I start realizing that I actually have my executive assistant is less than $10 an hour. So like it's really dumb for me to do those kind of tasks when I could be making a lot more money. And he actually talks about his wife, and it talks about buying back time, but she loves to shovel her driveway.
Yeah.
And so I mean, and they're loaded, right? There is absolutely no reason that she could not pay someone to shovel their driveway, but she enjoys it, so she chooses to do that.
Yeah.
I have trust issues, so I don't let other people change my oil. So, but that's really just because I don't trust anybody to mess with my vehicles.
Yeah.
But I don't mow my own yard anymore because, again, like you said, if I'm making $200 an hour and I pay this crew $50 an hour at most to cut my lawn, that's pretty easy math, right? What do you think is the biggest obstacle for people in the industry to really grasp this concept? Like, is it more of a mentality thing? Is it an education thing? Is it a confidence thing? Like what? Because it seems like it's a little bit of an uphill battle, but it's enough of an issue that we know that it's an issue, right?
Yeah. I think 90% of it is ego. I built this business myself. I can do it. And that is, the ego has always been to me the biggest stopping point in this industry, or what keeps it back. And also the, MTE. You've been going to MTE for a number of years. I've been, speaking at MTE for 20 years. 20 years ago, I would be in a room talking about business, and I'd have three people in the room. In the room beside me, there was someone talking about the 8 steps of jeweling paint, and the room would be full, like standing room only. Today at MTE, that has changed, and that to me is a great sign that our industry is progressing and it's getting better. I talk about business, and the room is full. The room beside me, they're talking about the 8 steps of jeweling paint, and it might be half full because MTE is growing.
Mm-hmm.
So you never have an empty room at MTE anymore. But that is something that I see is growing, and people are using MTE, are using SEMA, are using chat groups, and things like that to progress in business as much as the technical aspect of detailing. And once the detailer stops worrying about the technical aspect of detailing and starts concentrating on the technical aspect of growing their business, then that really changes their mindset, their focus, and that's when they grow as not only as a detailer, but as a customer service business and as a human being.
Mm-hmm. What do you think are some of the biggest things that we could tell the people listening to this to begin to make that transition? Because I use the phrase, you're either a detailer or you're a business owner / entrepreneur. And I think sometimes the entrepreneur / business owner gets melded, and they're not always they're not always the same thing.
Yeah.
Which is totally fine. Like you don't have to be a serial entrepreneur in order to be successful.
No.
And in some ways, Yvan and I as probably good examples, it's not always the best path to be successful by being an entrepreneur. But what kind of advice can we give to people like, hey, if you just concentrate on these 3 to 5 things at first and kind of progress through that, what do you think those things are? And what are you teaching out in the world right now?
So one of the primary things is, like I mentioned, take your ego, put it in a box, and put it in the middle of the driveway and drive over that box 50 times. Just get rid of the ego. You're not doing this for yourself. You're not doing this for the other guys on Facebook. You're doing it for your customers. So learn how to meet your customers' expectations and exceed your customers' expectations just a little bit, not over the top. Chili cheese dog, not a steak. But that is one of the biggest things. The other thing is stop.
Well, let me ask you. Let me ask you about that. So, what is that like? Walk me through the thought process of what it means to be someone that lets ego drive their behavior versus someone that doesn't let ego drive their behavior? Because I want to
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
really ram this idea home.
24 hours of polishing on a car for $1,000 or 2 hours of polishing for 2,000. That is where your ego goes, oh shit, yeah, you're right. Because the customer doesn't see the difference. And like I say, every time you're polishing a car, you're doing damage to it. And once you get that mindset of the more I polish this, the more damage I'm doing to it, that is when, as a detailer, the entrepreneur can go, wait a minute, you're right there. Uh, the ego, let's get you off the shoulder. Let's get that chip off the shoulder and let's focus on satisfying the customer. And
Mm-hmm.
once we realize that satisfying the customer is the best thing we can do, it is actually the most pleasurable as well. Because I don't know if you've polished a car for 20 hours straight, it's not a fun thing. It
No,
starts
it is
out being
not. It
fun. Yeah.
sucks.
Yeah, 100%. And as human beings, we get, after about 8 hours, our focus isn't there anymore. You know,
Mm-hmm.
there's a reason we have an 8 hour workday and a 40-hour work week, is because that is the limit of the human psyche to do that. As an entrepreneur, I'm sure you're the same way. I'm in bed at 3 o'clock in the morning, writing, taking notes. But that is our own little, mental deficiency that we have. But
Right.
when we were running our shops, our employees, if they showed up before, we were open from 8 till 5. If they showed up before 7:45, they couldn't get in. I didn't want them in
Mm.
there. And if they weren't gone by 5:15, there was something really wrong. Like I wanted them to be home by then, never mind out of the shop. So that to me is important. And as the entrepreneur, as the business owner, my job was to schedule them efficiently. And if someone had to do overtime, that was on me. That was my fault. So I'm the one that did the overtime. And I see a lot of these guys, they're like, oh, I don't pay my employees. I pay my employees more than the average wage in our town. We had some people that were managers at other businesses coming to us, washing cars and making more money because I could provide that for them because I was charging enough. But also, when
Mm-hmm.
you get an employee that you can train and that you pay properly, a $20 an hour employee is always going to do 2 times the work of a $10 an hour employee. Assuming you're giving them the tools to do it, but you get a much better job done. Like your administrative assistant, I'm sure you're paying her more than minimum wage.
Mm-hmm.
But if you were to find someone that you're paying minimum wage, would you trust them to do the job that you need them to do? No.
No, I pay the girl that ships my products
Yeah.
$40 an hour.
Yeah.
Four
Perfect.
40, not 14.
Yeah.
But she also only needs to work like 5 to 10 hours a week because she is so good at what she does. I could hire somebody for $12 an hour here,
Yeah.
and they probably would try to work 30.
Yeah.
It's just the difference.
Exactly. And that is something that, again, having the business owner mindset and the entrepreneur mindset are a little different. The business owner doesn't necessarily want to grow. And I have a couple students that their whole goal in taking my training was not to grow their business and not to, take on 15 employees. They wanted to drop their kid off at school in the morning and pick their kid up from school at night. And that was the end of their workday. So that was why they wanted to be more efficient, was to be able to do that, to be able to provide in a 30-hour work week, do what they were doing in a 60-hour work week before, not seeing their kid grow up. So,
Mm.
and there's nothing wrong with that as well. You don't have to grow your business. It's not a necessity. It is, your business has to provide for you. You have to provide for your business in some cases. But at the same time, there's nothing wrong with not being an entrepreneur. If you want to be a business owner and you want to own a job, that's fine as well. There's nothing wrong with that if that is satisfying your needs and doing what you want to do. Like you change your own oil, and it may or may not be because of trust issues, but let's say you enjoy getting under your car and changing your oil, right?
Which I do. I
Yeah.
actually do enjoy that. So does Michelle. So we do it together. It's a couple. Yeah, that's our
Yeah.
date night sometimes. So
Yeah, exactly. Same with us. So that is fun. And so you purposely want to do that. Whereas if you're in a role in your business, and I've had some people that they were just horrible at sales. They were great at they're great at polishing paint. They're great at washing cars, at interiors, whatever. They're just horrendously bad at sales, and they're not a good customer facing person. Well, my tip to them was hire someone to do what you don't want to do. Do what you like to do. That way it's fun for you to go there in the morning. And when you leave at the end of the day, it's not, oh, good, I finally get to go home. It's like, oh, wow, it's already time to go home. And that's
Mm-hmm.
what your employees need to be as well. We had one guy in our shop that what he did was polish paint. He didn't wash cars, he didn't do interiors. He had a polisher against paint 35 hours out of 40 in the week, but he loved it. And
Mm-hmm.
if we would have let him work 60 hours, he would have, because he just loved it. And our son is a great example. You Our son is slightly autistic. He's got Asperger's. And for him, cleaning a mommy interior, a mommy van interior that the kids lived in for 6 years, and there's Cheerios and there's all sorts of stuff, or doing a wash on the brand new Ferrari, he'd pick the minivan every time, because that
Mm-hmm.
he could see the difference that he was making. He would really, the progress, and he was extremely efficient at it as well. He did a spectacular job, didn't miss a thing, because he was passionate about it. So, if you're not passionate about one aspect of your business, find someone that is. Just because you own the business doesn't mean you need to manage the business. Just because you own the business doesn't mean you need to run the business. There might be someone better out there to do that job for you.
Yeah, and again, like we started out with, if you got to be having fun at what you're doing, and if it's not any fun because you hate management, you hate sales, you hate paperwork, and you just want to polish paint, then go polish paint and find someone else to do those things.
Yeah.
And I think I love your point about not everybody wants to grow their business. I think right now we're in a place. 20 years ago, 15 years ago, we weren't having 7 and 8 figure detail shops that were publicly facing. Like
No.
they were still there. Most of them were car washes, because car washes have always been super profitable.
Yeah.
But now I feel like that we're almost glamorizing to the point where it's defeating many people in the industry. And I've said this on the podcast more than once, which is, if you want to make 120 grand a year and you live in an area that makes that lifestyle great, and you can put food on the table, take a vacation every once in a while, whatever your lifestyle that you want to choose, that's totally okay. Like, you don't need to kill yourself trying to live up to some other business person's goals.
No.
Right?
No. You need to satisfy yourself, your family, and meet your goals, meet your needs. What other people think of you and your business does not matter. Never has, never will. As long as you are happy and your customers are happy and you're paid, that's all you need. Some of us, and you're the same way, we have to have that carrot to go after. We need to grow our business. We need to see that growth. That's in me. I need to see that. And
Mm-hmm.
when my business has stopped growing, or I've reached a plateau, or I've reached the end of what that business can do, that's when it's for sale, because I'm no longer having fun. But other people, their flex, I think the term now is the flex. It's like, my flex
Mm-hmm.
is, we had a $10 million detailing shop, no big deal. The other guy's flex is, hey, I don't start work till 10 a.m. and at 3 I'm done. And my whole,
Yeah.
and I take every weekend off. I take every long weekend. I take a month in January to go down to Florida. That's his flex. And he does it out of a 1-car garage, and he's very happy. And, and some of us that have had the 50 employees and all that, sometimes we look longingly at that guy and go, wow, that's
That
a
sounds
nice
great.
flex.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So there's no perfection, doesn't exist. There is no, this is the way you have to run a business. There's no, this, you need to grow your business to this point. And some people don't care to have an exit strategy. Their exit strategy might be, when I die, I'm gone. You're the same way. I'm technically retired.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, right. So I only work 80 hours a week, but that's what I want. And to me, retire, the old vision of retirement, of sitting on the front porch in a rocker watching the world go by, is not going to happen for me. You might as well put me in a box at that point. It's just,
Yeah.
you're going to kill me anyways. So but that's my vision of retirement. Other people's vision of retirement is, sitting on the porch and watching the traffic go by. And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with everybody's individual vision. It's just you need to work to satisfy your needs, to satisfy your desires and your vision, not someone else's. And that's where a lot of people get caught up, is trying to satisfy someone else.
Yeah, that's such a, it's something that when I was younger, I actually did more often. I just try to live up to some other expectation.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm getting a little bit smarter. But I read Tim Ferriss's 4 Hour Work Week probably like not long after it came out, and it's been out for at least 15 years. It's got to be more like 20 now.
Yeah. Time
But
flies.
I've always tried to take that. Yeah, right. I've always tried to take that mentality, which is there really is no reason to retire from a life that you build that you love.
Exactly.
Right. Like my flex right now is that Michelle and I, we work out every day together.
Yeah.
And we take walks. We take walks at least twice a day. But I blocked my calendar until 10 a.m.
Yeah.
every Monday through Friday. So there's my big flex, right? Like that allows me to spend that time working out with her, and we lift weights and we go for walks and we do cardio and runs and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But I can do that because I've built the systems in order to allow me to do that and allow me to, we're going to between MTE and another event that I have to be in Florida, we're going to take that week and just hang out in Orlando at a resort, right? Like that's how I've tried to build my business, and I'm continually trying to expand that to make it better.
Yeah. Same with me. Like, I live in a tour bus. We travel around,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm not always teaching. But in between, we're traveling, we're enjoying life, we're having fun, we're meeting people. And, people often ask us, what was your favorite place to visit? We don't have one. We travel to meet people. We don't travel to go to places. And, so that is our fun, doing that. And Sylvie and I are together 24/7, 365 days a year, in everything that we do. And that is how I grew up as well. So my parents, from the time they were 14 years old to the time they passed away, were together 24/7. They worked in the same
Wow.
factory. They were always together, and that was my role model. So having that now is, to me, that's success. To be able to do that, to be able to live that lifestyle. And like you and Michelle, you guys are together pretty much 24/7 as well. So
Yep.
yeah. And some couples will kill themselves if they had to be 24/7 with their partner. But for us, that is a goal. And it's something we've been able to obtain. It's something we're able to do. And, the 4 hour work week, that's about what in terms of actual work, if I can say that, that's about what I do. The rest of the time, I'm answering questions on Facebook and YouTube and helping people out and having fun. So
Yeah, I mean that's the life, right? And I mean, to your point, like I'm not going to retire either. I'm just going to be able to do more stuff that I'm already doing. Like I don't, and I'm sure you're like me, which I love the creation aspect of businesses. People ask me what my hobbies are. Cars is one of them, obviously.
yeah.
But it's really it's creating new businesses. Like I love the creation aspect of it, or product development, or figuring out new products and all that goes into that.
Yeah.
New markets, and all of and meeting, to your point, meeting new people.
Yeah.
I did a post on Facebook this morning that in the last 6 months, the quality of people, men especially, that have come into my life, it's been unbelievable. And then each one of those has introduced me to more unbelievable guys.
Yeah.
Right. And it's like, and I'm like, I always joke and say it's my either how'd you get in here guest, or in this case is how did you get in here friendships, which is I just wait for security to come ask me how I got into this room and escort me out.
Yeah.
But that's part of the fun part of life. Like you said, it's meeting new people and developing those relationships. And then that's actually part of what's made you successful in life, but also financially successful, because that's what helps you further to do the things that you want to do.
Yeah, and I've never worried about money, and Sylvie gets pissed off at me sometimes because I'm not a person that worries, and it's like money will just come. It's part of what we do. It's don't stress about it. There are times that are lean. There are times that are we can have steak every night if we want to, but that is part of it. And I've always been a minimalist. And
Mm-hmm.
now in the bus lifestyle, we go to events that are just nomads, and you see a lot of people that are living in a van. And the old, living in a van down by the river is not what people think. Uh,
First of all, the vans are 225 grand now.
yeah, pretty much, yeah. But we go to some tiny home shows, and we built the bus ourselves, and
Mm-hmm.
we have $75,000 wrapped up in the bus. It's not expensive. It's not, it looks like a $500,000 tour bus, which we've been offered 500K for it. So I'll say it's a $500,000 tour bus.
There you go. Right?
But
Yeah.
that being said, we built it ourselves. It was our COVID project, and we've been living in buses for a while. But you meet these people that they might work 5 hours or 10 hours a week doing something online, and the rest of the time they're out hiking, they're out having fun because they've chosen that lifestyle. But they don't have a mortgage, they don't have the big screen TVs and all, the 18 cars and all that fun stuff, but they find fun in other things. And that's something in life that when you realize that the dopamine rush you get from buying stuff is very, very short term, whereas the relationships you make, those are long term. The people that you meet, that's long term. The experiences you get in life, those are long term. The things that we accumulate are not long term.
Yeah, for sure. And that's, the one of the reasons we love our home. I built my wife her dream home, and then we
Yeah.
built a shop, and then now we built this other shop to support us being able to spend time together. She gets like 9/10 of it. She gave me a little place that I can park the Cobra.
Yeah.
So, 3,400 square feet, I get maybe 250 square feet, but
That's normal.
we're building that ourselves,
Yeah.
because I mean, it would have cost me 10 times as much to have somebody else do it, but we also built it together.
Yeah. Exactly.
So technically it is stuff, but it's also an experience. Like we really look, and I know you're the same way. We look towards those experiences
Yeah.
as like, this is where we want to invest our money, our time, is really having an experiential filled life.
Yeah. I see it. You guys are in Hawaii, and then you're in somewhere else, and you're traveling around a lot, and that's part of it.
Mm-hmm.
Like you said, you're going to be spending a couple weeks in Florida because you have two events. They're separated by time. Same with me. We go to MTE, and then we just bum around Florida for a month because it's warmer there than it is anywhere else.
Yeah,
So
that's a good time in January to not go north, for sure.
yeah, exactly. So, last January we were in Nebraska, and it was colder in Nebraska than in Quebec, and that was a bad life choice to be in Nebraska in January. Uh, we could have been in Florida, but anyways, that is one thing that this year we planned it a little differently, because our film studio is in Omaha, Nebraska, so we have to go there at least 3 times a year. But now we do it in the summer, in the spring, and in the fall, not during the winter. It's just not going to happen again. Uh, but yeah, choosing, we have the luxury, if I can put it that way, of choosing where we go when we go. There's a few things that we don't have the luxury, and that's MTE and SEMA for me. Those are the two,
Mm-hmm.
the two fixed dates in the year. Other than that, there's no fixed dates for us, and I don't know what my schedule is past, the 1st of December.
Yeah.
I have no idea, and we'll find out. The schedule will fill itself. It always does.
Yeah. That's great. For some reason I ended up backloading all my travel. I'm home 6 days in November, and we're home a week in December.
Yeah.
And I don't like it. Like, that's a lot of time, other than the fact that it will be like below zero a lot of the time in December
Yeah.
and January here. But I want to bring it back around to the reason, I'm thinking the reason we're talking about this is because everyone listening to this podcast, resist the temptation to say to yourself, yeah, but that's those guys. Like, that's because they're this, or they're this, or they've done this, or they've done this.
Yeah.
The answer to that, what we've done is I feel like that we've made choices to make this lifestyle possible. And I truly believe that everybody listening to this could do the same thing if they, with it may take years like us,
Yeah.
I've been self-employed for almost 30 years. And so
Yeah.
like it's taken a long time, but that is possible.
Anything's possible. And I've never put value on monetary things, in the sense of whether you're living in a van down by the river, the old style, not the new ones, or you
Yeah.
have a 10,000 square foot home with a 5,000 square foot garage and a collection of cars. Those two people are the same to me.
Mm-hmm.
I don't put value in that. And like I said, we go to some events that are, for nomads, and you have people that show up in that $2 million brand new Prevost, and you have the person that's in that 1978 Ford Econoline. As soon as you step on that piece of land, there's no class structure. It doesn't
Mm-hmm.
matter if you showed up in a $2 million RV or a 2,000 or $200 van. Everyone is the same. We all put our pants on one leg at a time. We all walk the same way. We all talk the same way, and there's no difference when it comes down to the human being. And that's something a
Mm-hmm.
lot of people, they put um, too much weight or too much value in monetary things. And once you break free of that, it becomes a lot easier. If you're doing this, like you're building businesses, etc., to grow, and you love the building of a business, and that's your passion. You want to build that
Mm-hmm.
business, see it grow. And I'm sure, part of it is money because you have to pay for things. But
Mm-hmm.
if someone were to say, you get to build a kick-ass business, but you're not going to make any money for it, but you're going to have all the fun of doing it, I'm sure you probably would, because you've got
Oh
other
yeah.
things that are supporting you. And, like you're helping Chris with Detailer's Roadmap. Detailer's Roadmap for me is a phenomenal business, and it's providing an exceptional service to the detailing industry by
Mm-hmm.
providing something that a lot of detailers don't think about. SEO is, in this day and age, extremely important. If you don't have
Mm-hmm.
SEO, you're not getting customers. It's just not going to happen. Word of mouth. What was word of mouth 20 years ago is SEO today. And
Mm-hmm.
the better your SEO is, like the better word of mouth you had 20 years ago. And so what Chris has done, be able to leverage the experience of his team, and the team keeps growing every day, it seems, but leveraging that,
Yeah.
yeah, leveraging that, because detailers are figuring out, hey, if I just invest a little bit, not spend, you're investing. If I just invest a bit of money in this, there's going to be a return. And for me at this point in my life, I get calls, do you want to invest, or I'm in a divesting role. I'm not in an investing role at this point. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, and that's a fun place to be. To say that I don't need to make money to live. It's
Yeah.
Let's do it for passion. Let's do it for fun. Let's do it to grow, to help other people. And you're at the same, you're at that same crossroads now. But it took a lot of work, a lot of time to get there. And
Yeah.
but there are tools available to us today that make it so that you can get to that point a lot faster. And you mentioned a lot of great books. Take the time to read the books. Stop watching YouTube videos on how to polish paint, and watch a video. Listen to an audio book on how to. Oh, listen to an audio book on how to grow your business, how to manage your wealth or grow wealth or whatever you want to do. But focus on the business aspect and not the technical aspect.
Yeah. One of the things that I did this year, times actually in the last, I have become and I know that part of your business and social media and answer. One of the things is I'm a poster and ghoster now for the most part. I get on Facebook. I don't scroll. I check my business accounts. Maybe if whenever I'm on my way towards the very top, I'm like it or whatever. But that's it. Like 15 hours, right? Like that 15 hours is, I'm reading one for pleasure and then three business books. And but I wouldn't have that time unless if I was spending it on detailing groups, and even business groups and those kind of things would not really serve my purposes. So I think that's a really good point. What are you doing now? What are we going to SEMA for? What's your gig at SEMA? This probably actually will come out after SEMA. So
Yeah.
like what or if you didn't come by.
So SEMA for us this year, for DIY, it's our first year at SEMA. So that's going to be a fun thing. The first year of any business at SEMA is always a thing.
Mm-hmm.
From our group of people that we have our CSRs there. We've got a bunch of people there. I'm the only one that's ever been to SEMA. So for
Mm.
see,
Oh wow.
yeah. So seeing that, seeing their eyes light up and all that, and people think SEMA is big until they go there, and then they realize just how big SEMA is. It's it looks big on TV. It's bigger in real life, but
Yeah, walk from the upper South Hall and you will realize how big SEMA is, right?
yeah, yeah. You start at the back of the Upper South Hall, and you try to make it to the other corner of the West Hall. It's not a 5 minute walk.
No.
Yeah,
No.
it's a long walk. But one of the things I'm really excited about is launching a new tool, and I've been designing this tool for the last 5 years. Battery operated polishers all follow the same model. The battery's at the end of the handle, and that's where it is. I've put my battery in a completely different spot. We've actually been able to patent it, so it'll be a lot of fun.
Nice.
Hopefully there'll be a bit of revenue stream from that as other people try to put their batteries in different places. But I have we've been able to obtain the same balance and weight as a corded tool, just without the cord. So the battery is I don't have the tool here, but the battery is completely shifted from at the end. It's actually on top in the middle. So
Oh wow. I've used those battery tools. First of all, none of them really look that great.
our mine looks like shit.
For
So but yeah, so
right,
this is the
but
tool.
it works great.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
okay, cool.
the battery's in an odd location. It looks odd, but what you're doing is now your hand spacing is exactly the same as a corded tool. The weight is the same as a corded tool. The functionality is the same, but you just don't have the cord. And you see it, a lot of the people that have the the wait 1 second. Yeah. And by the way, this is a hand built prototype, so but
Nice.
you know yeah. So the ones that have the battery here, you see people using the tool. What are they doing? They're holding the battery. They're not holding the switch.
Yep.
They're not holding the handle that has the nice rubber on it and all that. And one manufacturer has actually come out and they put a rubber coating on their battery because people are holding it. So instead of moving the battery, so I decided to move the battery. But this is something I've been working on, in the background for the last 5 years, and it's finally here. So
And you went through the patent process, which if you have not been through that process, you realize how freaking expensive it is, and
yes,
how many attorneys you have to talk to, right? Well, it sounds cool because you mentioned that that's what entrepreneurs do. And if you miss this, I want to point out his patent will then allow him to license the technology and in some ways be able to then make money through the licensing from the intellectual your bag, but use Austin Powers language there. But you may have opportunities to increase revenue streams in unexpected ways.
yeah, by doing
That's
absolutely
what I
nothing.
wanted to point that.
Yeah,
That's one of my life goals, which is counterintuitive to what you would think. Is I want to do a least amount of work and make. That's my. So I don't know if that's laziness or just being smart. Probably the latter, but are part of the
the well, the latter, and then you get to be philanthropic at that point. So if
yeah.
you're making money by doing nothing, you can do something to benefit someone else and not have to worry about the money.
So do you have an official name? That's going to be at SEMA. I'm excited to see how that goes over. I'll come by the booth and see you,
Yep.
or by the time this airs, I came by the booth to see you, and it was amazing. We'll just put that out there.
Okay.
And then you're doing training. How do people get a hold of you if they want to reach out about training, having you come to your shop? Because you do that separately from DIY Detail, right? That's not wrapped into your role at DIY Detail, or it is?
Yeah, no, like you, I've got several businesses. But for anything, just Ivan at DIY Detail. It's the easiest way to get a hold of me.
Okay, that's awesome. And be able to do some training. He'll come to your shop and show you all your inefficiencies that you're dealing with and how much time, and then he'll get his little calculator out. So I hired a team to do my Amazon listings. This is that thing. How much money you lost using a team to do. It's humbling. I'm sure that's probably what you do. You threw $30,000 away last year because of these inefficiencies. But the good news is you.
Yeah, 100%. And Amazon is a strange beast. We're going through that right now, trying to get the Amazon listings set up and a little better than what they are now. So yeah, it's
I have a really good team. If you need, we'll talk after offline if you want a team.
yeah.
Amazon is the I treat them as my worst possible distributor I could ever have.
Yeah.
Not only my team, but they hate me. Customers. Like if you don't know the back end about being a seller on Amazon, you should do some research because you will feel bad for those of us that have to sell there. So
Yeah. It makes Walmart look really good to sell at.
oh, 100%. Yeah, for sure. But so Ivan at DIYdetail.com at SEMA, I didn't talk to you. I think honestly because of this probably is worth conversations all in terms of likely, but I really appreciate you coming on board and taking time, and we'll see you next week.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Head over to detailersroadmap.com and get your one-stop success solution today.